All right, let me alternate videos that are kind of made for anybody and everybody to find with video for the nerds who really support this channel. I continue to be very interested in the question of the origin of the runes, and my thinking about it has evolved. Um, I'm sure, and it might even be really early videos where I just sort of accept what for a really long time has been the scholarly consensus that runes are derived from the Roman alphabet just because the place and time seems obvious. But um, in the somewhere in the mid 2010s, I read Richard Morris's Runic and Mediterranean Epigraphy, a book from the 70s, which convinced me that um, the letter forms and the runic alphabet overall look more like an archaic Greek alphabet. And so, in one of the earliest videos in this channel where I made a relatively sophisticated um, argument about origin of the runes, and just see if I can find this so I can just show you because I don't want to spend a lot of time editing a video for two people. Um, is and nobody cares about the archaeology of my views, but such as it is, I made this video in 2018, Origin of the Runes, old version, and I think there I said, "Oh, this is I think there's an archaic Greek alphabet, and of course, the Greek alphabet exists in so many variations beyond the one that we're used to, the sorority fraternity one, that's been transmitted through some intermediary people, and then by I don't really remember where I was at in this 2021 video, but by Runes, a Free Course Part 2 Origins, I had decided that that intermediary was very, very likely to be uh, a Celtic speaking people, perhaps those using a version of the Lepontic script in the Alps. At any rate, it definitely looks like there are a lot of characteristics of runic writing that are derived from an alpine script from the ancient world, the script borrowed from an archaic Greek alphabet and that's gone through an Etruscan intermediary, but then not through a Roman intermediary, but instead through the intermediary first, with a lot of the scripts probably phonetic speakers, and then whatever the local language is, Raetic, Lepontic, etc. For more about those alphabets, look for a great interview that doesn't look like it has a lot to do with runes, maybe from its name, but North Italic alphabets with Dr. Corina Solomon. She is one of the world's experts on those languages and scripts. She gave us a great overview of the questions there. Also, we had an interview with um, David Stifte about Cisalpine Celtic, which is the actual very probable proximal source of a lot of the features of the earliest runic alphabet. In particular, the letter D is actually used as this rune. The letter that's used in runes for a D is used for a D in Lepontic, so Cisalpine Celtic. This comes from an archaic Greek letter son. It's the only place that we see this development, so it's an extremely good case for the origin of that. Now, alphabets don't have to come from just one place, right? Um, so I have a presentation in that one video about um, the origin of the runes from the rune class series. Where is this rune class origins? And you can see what a junkyard. See, look at this. YouTube won't even show me preview pictures or videos sometimes. This it's an incredible website, even behind the scenes. Where is this? It's so much harder to find these without. There we go. Runes, a Free Course Part 2. So I presented there a model where largely the alphabet is derived from the Pontic, but the first letter F you need to get through uh, italics. So I think that maybe that was actually added um, later. And then the last letter O, if you're getting it from a lot of places in the Alps, you need to get that later. And I think that a plausible place for that to have come in is from actually directly from Greek. And so that O, which looks like omega, is added at the end of the alphabet. What I thought was a pretty engaging presentation about this in this talk, Seeking Runes in Myth and History, which you can look for if you want a little. I think, I think I did a pretty good job with that. And then I did a similar talk in this talk, Runes in the News, live in Utah. So you can look for those if you want some more about my perspective on this, which I still fundamentally agree with. Probably most detail in that Runes course video, and then most engaging in that Seeking Runes in Myth and History video. So I continue reading about this subject, and I've been wanting to show you some things I've read recently that have, piqued my interest or taught me something, and I'll put links to these if I remember to in the pinned comment. One is this paper from 1959. Let's see, page 30 is where that good summary is at. This is by, his name's at the end, isn't it? Giovanni Battista Pellegrini, and it is called Origine e Diffusione degli alfabeti pre-romani nell'Italia superiore. And I know that I don't pronounce Italian beautifully or anything, but I do read it. And I thought that this was a really interesting dive into the question of just where these alpine alphabets come from. I mean, actually, this establishes very well they're from Etruscan, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case for all of them, right? And then some of them have some features that they borrow later from other places than Etruscan. It's a reminder. Oh, yeah. Part of what was interesting about this was these alpine outfits are already mixed, right? A lot of them, other than Raetic, which like Etruscan doesn't have an O, a lot of them reintroduce an O. So, presumably that's from contact with Greeks, and those Greeks might be in the Adriatic, and they might also be in the vicinity of Marseille, right, in southern Gaul, southern France. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it occurred to me too that, in the Greek omega that appears to show up at the end of the runic alphabet, you might have a similar situation where that's coming from Greeks. And I thought that, well, maybe another Celtic speaking people are a vector for that omega, that you're not actually going directly through Greeks. And there's a really interesting article called The Languages and Epigraphies of Iron Age and Roman Gaul by Alex Mullen, which is in this book. Show to you. Latinization, Local Languages and Literacies in the Roman West, edited by Alex Mullen and Anna Really. This article, I mean, it's interesting just on its own for its discussion of languages and inscriptions from southern Gaul in the pre-Roman and Roman eras. A lot of interesting maps that you can play around with as you like. One thing that was really interesting was, seeing these so much Gaulish written in Greek. And one thing that I really wanted to read this article for was to see whether omega was known there, because omega is introduced in the Greek alphabet. It's not there in the most archaic Greek alphabets. It's introduced in Ionic speaking areas, probably in, seems like people disagree, but it looks like definitely you're seeing it in Abecedaria and graffiti in the 600s BC, in Ionia, and fairly shortly after that in Athens. But it's sort of developing on the eastern side of the Greek world. So I want to say, well, is it showing up way on the western end in Marseille? And it is. In fact, because Marseille is and that area is largely colonized by Greek speakers who are from that Ionic speaking area. So not a bad way to get an Eastern Greek letter into, actually there's an omega right there, into a Germanic language, right? Especially, you have Lepontic speakers. It's going to draw a terrible, vague square like somewhere around here. If Germanic speakers are in this area, maybe encountering Celtic speakers, they could be encountering Celtic speakers using the Greek alphabet. These little pies that have a slice off on the left, um, those are Gaulish inscriptions in a Greek alphabet. Um, and they're using Gallo-Greek into the ADs, so much later even than the origin of the runes. So uh, good timing for them to be potentially encountering that too. And I believe, what do you say? I took a note of this somewhere. Um, when those Gallo-Greek inscriptions start, looks like they start um, around 125 um, BC. That's pretty interesting. That's fairly late, right? I mean, we forget these were eventful centuries, and a lot of different peoples were active in a lot of different places. So um, I don't know. I don't find that that's at all discordant with the notion that this could be a source for that omega. I also was looking at a couple of, I don't know, I have bad computer vocabulary, but I don't know if you call this a database or what it is, but um, on this thing, Latin Now, gis.latinnow.eu, you can search um, inscriptions and by language. It's pretty cool. Actually, I was surprised. Some of these places you see um, Etruscan. These dots are not. These are just towns to help you orient. But look, there's Etruscan stuff on the southern coast there too. So also places that you could encounter an alphabet derived from Etruscans. I'm not saying they did, but I just thought that was kind of interesting and surprising. There's also this RIIG, where you can look at Gaulish inscriptions in different alphabets. And I was really surprised to see, what is it, AIS 0101? It's this, right? This is a graffiti way up here that's in the Greek alphabet. So, a graffito. So, it's getting around more than just on that southern coast where it's concentrated. So it might not even need to be a contact zone way down here. It could be a contact zone closer to Scandinavia where we do see the earliest runic inscriptions. And then, just to get more information about Raetic itself, this possible source alphabet, though, as I recall from our discussion, Karina Salomon doesn't tend to think of Raetic as the source alphabet for runes. And it should be pointed out, Raetic is actually written in two different scripts, two different variants of the alpine scripts. So there's this article on her academia.edu from a book about Paleo-Hispanic scripts, I think. That's just a great overview of Raetic and the basic facts about the language and its script and the kind of inscriptions found and where they're found. This is just an excellent introduction, excellent bibliography, and I followed up on a bunch of these too. And then there's this article, which is about the different scripts used for Raetic. And so you can get a sense of how much variation there is, even in this fairly small corpus, right? So we have, for example, one alphabet where you've got the L and the U flipped like they are in runes versus one where they're not, right? Where they're in their Greek or Latin expected orientation with that bend at the bottom. So those are some recent readings that I've done on this subject. For those of you interested in the subject, I hope that's something interesting to follow up on. And, you know, I'll continue to try to keep you updated on what I learn about this. Probably I'd be trying to put all this together into some kind of article or whatever. If that were what my career depended on, because I had a university job, but as it is, I'd rather make, since I don't have that kind of job, I'd rather make a video for two people than an article for zero, and let the firsthand experts like Karina Salomon, David Stifter come on here and really give you, from the horse's mouth, the info, and then share ways that you can get this info, like in a video like this, and then now and then present my own kind of digestion of and thinking about those things, like I did in that series of videos I talked about near the beginning of this recording. For now, beautiful Colorado, thank you, Patreon, patreon.com, patreon.com/North by Southwest is where you can support this channel. If you join at the Skull tier, you can actually get firsthand looks early on at my work on the developing second edition of the Poetic Edda due out this fall, and on the Prose Edda due out maybe in 2026 if everything goes pretty well. You can also support my friends and partners at Grimfrost, grimfrost.com. I am also looking at joining Grimfrost in Sweden in mid or late June for a festival they're talking about putting on there, and also doing some other potentially presentations in Sweden. So watch for announcements about that. We'll see if it happens. For now, from beautiful Colorado, I'm wishing you